Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to our Behind Her Brand Monday Morning Brew. Feels like I haven't been here for a while, but it's only been 1 week. Our family had a vacation, and so we just kind of just turned off a little bit and just took a nice road trip. But I am glad to be back here this morning. I've on my third cup, yes, third. This is hot tea though, but it's my favorite mug here, female owned. Love, 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 love all things female owned, as you all know. But it also serves as a foundation of what I wanted to talk about today. And for today's brew, I wanted to go ahead and set it up to where I would love to hear your thoughts on what I'm getting ready to share. Some of you guys may have experienced this in different ways, and it may not be exactly what I experienced, but I still would love to learn and know what you've experienced, what you've learned, and what you've gained based off of what I'm getting ready to talk about this morning. But I was on a podcast about, was it 3 weeks ago? And it was a co-hosted podcast, really, really fun time. And they asked me two questions. And one was, have I ever self-sabotaged my success? And have I ever experienced fear of success? And this is what I wanted to talk about today. And they were great questions because when they asked me both those questions at the same time, actually, one of the hosts immediately said, "But I'm sure you probably never really self-sabotaged. You never done any of this." She says, "But I'm just kind of curious because I asked everybody that I feel has had some success that question, but she immediately said, I don't think you probably experienced that." And I said, "No, but I have. I have." I said, "My first experience with this was when I was in my 20s. And this is where I was sharing earlier that I would love to hear your input because I know that we've all dealt with certain things. And I think this is one of those topics that we don't talk about a lot. We talk about how to make money, how to be successful, how to be debt free, how to be all these different things, right? But when you're growing and building and putting things in place, a lot of times what stop people from really building and really going full throttle is what I call the other side of it, the other side of what growth and success can look like. So, like for me, for example, when I was in my early 20s, no husband, no kids, no anything like that, I was running a very successful speaker management agency, long little title there. And when I got into that business, prior to that, I was fresh out of college, didn't have a lot of money, the typical thing you're trying to build, trying to grow, trying to get things going. And I was blessed to be able to be introduced to someone that introduced me to the motivational speaking world. And it was exciting. It was fun. And I quickly grew in that because I had the most amazing, amazing mentor at the time. And so at that season, as I was building and growing and traveling and doing all these really cool things, my girlfriend group that I was very close to, I mean, we could have been blood sisters. That's how close we were. I noticed that they were doing things and not inviting me anymore. I would call and I wouldn't get as many callbacks. And I just noticed over a couple of period of months, it seemed like everything was shifting. And so when those relationships were shifting, I started to feel really sad, and it was affecting me and how I was showing up in other areas because I'm like, what's going on? Did I do something? And I'm one of those kind of people that at that time I was a strong people pleaser. And so I was like combing through my head, like, what did I do? What do I do? And so finally, when my girlfriends called me and she says, we just can't relate to you no more. Just Kim, we're over here trying to make our light bill. We're all like living with each other. And in this season time, I got my own apartment. I have my own car. I have my own stuff because, like I said, the business was doing well. And she says, we can't relate to you. And that was my first, like, what? And I was like, what do you mean? I'm still Kim. And they're like, yeah, but you're going here, you're going there, you're experiencing this, you're doing that. And we're over here just trying to make the next payment on rent. We're trying to make sure we have enough groceries for the next week. And I was like, oh, I can help you all with all of that. I was trying to try to fix something, right? And what ended up happening though was I noticed the more distance they got with me, the more depressed I became. And so what started to happen was I started to shrink to fit them. Have you ever done that for anyone? I started to find myself saying, you know what, I don't want to tell them all the things I'm doing. I started telling my speakers I couldn't travel with them quite so much, but I can do the work from home. I was literally self-sabotaging my success so that I can fit the comfortability of my friends and where they were. And what was happening is that my speakers were like starting to get upset. Like, why can't you travel anymore? Why can't you, what's going on? And it became this clash of two worlds where I didn't want to lose my friendships. I didn't want to lose my girls, people I loved and cared about. And I didn't want to lose what I was building as well. And so our mentor at the time said, you have to choose. And I was like, why do I have to choose? And he says, you can choose to keep growing where God has taken you. And you can keep enjoying what you are doing. You're working hard, you're putting your hard work, you're seeing it pay off. Or you can choose to be around people that don't champion your growth, that don't champion success, and that want you to fit where they are because they're comfortable with you as long as you fit where they are. And I remember like, oh, and I was like, but if I lose them, I'm not gonna have a lot of friends. And I was in my 20s, y'all. Okay. And I would love to know, have you ever shrunk to fit someone else's comfortability, if that's even a word, who they define you as? And that was a big lesson for me very early on in my career, because I had to make a hard decision and it was painful. These are people that I thought were going to be like my friends for life. And it was just a group of four of us, but I never, ever, ever got back to being with them again. Over a period of few months, as much as I kept trying to conform and fit, I realized I was losing myself and I was hurting myself. And they were okay with that. Their whole thing is, maybe this business isn't for you. Is you're not around any much. Find something different. Do this, do that. And I realized they just wanted me where they needed me to be. And learning that at such a young age really helped me so much. Not saying I've never, like, that one situation was my end all be all. No, I had a couple of more ebbs and flows over the year where I had to really learn that not to conform for someone else's comfort of who they want to see me be. But here's something else that I learned too, and it was a very, really big, valuable lesson for me, was I had to also learn not to self-sabotage and not to look at success as loss. Because for a period of time, every time I grew into a new level, I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose friends. I'm going to lose something. My fear of loss was so strong that I temper success. When big opportunities would come, no. If new clients wanted to come in that I knew was gonna be amazing for my business, it was like, no. Like, let me just be comfortable. Let me be safe. Let me be in my comfort zone. I can have a little bit of success. By that point, I had built some new friendships. For me, I wanted to be comfortable because I did not want to experience loss of anything again. And I can tell you what changed it for me. I felt like God kind of slapped my hand a little bit, because it was like, I'm growing you and I'm building what I've given you to do. And instead of going full throttle, you're sitting back and being comfortable because you're scared of what may come with growth. And that painful season, I remember where it seemed like everything stopped. The opportunity stopped flowing, clients stopped reaching out, and I was kind of feeling like, hey, what's going on? What's going on? But what started to happen was I became so comfortable in fitting this one little cocoon I built that I was hurting my ability to be something more. I was hurting my ability to grow what was given to me. I was hurting my ability to honestly cultivate new levels of where I needed to be. I was hurting myself. And I was so grateful that when that realization came to me, that it's okay for me to grow and do everything that I need to be, but also with the understanding that I'm going to have some friends that are going to grow with me and some that are simply are not. And when I started to really break through that shift of thinking and mindset, it changed everything for me. Because here's the truth of it is, even as I grew behind her brand and I started to build Soul Purpose and our publishing company and New Impact, I have 4 companies now. Along the way, I had people change and become different. I had people that did not want to be around as much, or they felt like, well, you didn't have me in this issue. You didn't do this, you didn't do that. All these different things that come with growth and success. But because of my early lessons, I learned it's okay for me to set boundaries. It's okay for me to grow and be good. It's okay for me to change. And that's another big thing. Has anyone ever said you've changed? Here's the thing. You can't grow and build and do and not become more enhanced version of yourself. And I remember the first time someone said, you've changed. I'm like, yeah, I have. I'm becoming much more wiser about the things that I'm doing. I'm setting healthier boundaries. I'm taking better care of myself. So yeah, there's some things that I have changed. I'm not always saying yes to everything anymore. I'm saying more no's now. I'm looking at even my financial foundation differently. So when someone says that to you too, that's another side of success. People who may look at you and say you change. It's different if you're changing for the better than obviously than if you're changing for the worse. That's something different. But I learned those different lessons. And I would love to ask you, what lessons have you learned when you have grown? What different things did you have to face when you started seeing success is amazing, wonderful, but it also affected some of the things that you didn't see coming? And maybe for you, it wasn't a loss of friendship. Maybe it wasn't a loss of opportunities, but maybe there was something else that you felt like there was a cost to. But the cost was worth it. That's the thing. I would love to hear your insights on it and love to see how you face it. Because for me, one thing I have learned is cultivating relationships that are healthy, where we're cheering each other on. Well, for me, has stopped the loss of relationships in that way. I know who my circle is. I know the people in my life that really care. I know the people that are championing me and my growth, and I'm championing them as well. And I had to learn that through the years. I had to really learn what that looks like and what that needs to be for me. And so, what does that look like for you? What does it show up for you? Um, I also had to look at the fact that I'm going to keep growing and changing. One, I'm getting older. I'm experiencing new things, having new conversations. So, yes, it's going to change. Not everybody's going to want that for you. But I feel like if it's what you need and you're good and you're growing and you find yourself getting stronger, better, wiser, go with that. Anybody that doesn't want to see you grow, I'm gonna say it nicely, don't need to be in your life. Okay. Anyone that wants to hold you back and say, no, don't do this. No, I don't like this, because they're not comfortable with the person that you're becoming. You got to question that relationship and you got to evaluate if that relationship is healthy for you. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I think this is a really good discussion on success. And is there any parts of it that, maybe fear is not the word you want to use, but any parts of it that has been challenging that you had to go through? Anything you've experienced where you're like, man, I did not see that coming, but it challenged me to become this, that, or the other. Would love, love, love your insights on that. I think it's such a healthy topic to talk about because you can encourage one another in this space. So thank you again, y'all, for joining our Behind Her Brand Monday Morning Brew. I cannot wait to hear the comments on this one. Tag some women on here. Like I always share with you guys, we want to grow this platform and have these discussions because it can help someone who may be dealing with the very thing that we're discussing today. All right, ladies, have a wonderful day, and I cannot wait to hear your comments or see your comments.